Alright, so today's story is the Valiant Little Tailor, collected by the Brothers Grimm. So the story unfolds with the valiant little tailor sitting alone in the woods about to dig into his lunch. He had made a jam sandwich and he had some cheese for later. Put the cheese down. Now, the times were tough for the little tailor, so he could only afford one slice of bread in his jam sandwich. "Gee," he said, "this jam sandwich looks mighty appetizing, even though it only consists of one slice of bread and some jam on top. I only wish my other tailor friends could see what I'm eating." Put his sandwich down. But then he thought, well, why couldn't his other tailor friends see what he was eating? Why, he had his tools right here. He could stitch an image of his lunch onto his belt and show them that later. You see, this was before Instagram was a thing. This was before Facebook was a thing. This was even before MySpace was a thing. So if you wanted to show other people what you were eating, you either had to go up to them in person with your food and say, look at what I'm eating. Isn't it amazing?" And they would go, or you would use a more mundane method of image capture, like what the tailor is doing at the moment. It was dark times indeed. So he put down his sandwich next to his cheese and got out his little needle and thread and other such tailoring tools and set about stitching an image of his sandwich onto his belt. "Gee, the lads are really going to love this embroidery." But then he heard a fly had landed in his sandwich. But before he could do anything else, 6 more flies had landed in his sandwich. Now you can imagine how annoyed he was at that. "That was me only sandwich! That was me only sandwich! 7 flies just flew into my only sandwich!" And he got so annoyed that he smacked his sandwich that it trapped all the flies, killing all of 7 of them in one blow. Now, you have to understand that people, on a whole, are extremely narcissistic. After all, what's the point of living if people don't know how great you are? So even though the prince was standing there with one hand covered in jam and his sandwich lying by his feet covered in dirt, his first thought was, well, I just killed 7 flies in one blow. That is quite the feat. I must tell all my friends about it. And, as you recall, this was before Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter was a thing. So there was no way for him to tell his friends about it. "Well, I know," the tailor said. "Well, I'll just embroider it onto my belt. That way, everyone can marvel at my feet. That way, everyone can point at me and say, 'Now there is a man who killed 7 flies in one blow.'" There's a weird accent. I just want to break here and say, I'm not very good at accents, and I apologize if the accent changes throughout this story. Anyway, so the tailor got about embroidering his belt. He embroidered 7 in one blow onto his belt. And then when he was done, he packed away his needle and thread and he took his cheese for later because all of this fuss had made him forget about how hungry he was. And then he set off for home. Now, along the trail home, the tailor met a giant lumbering through the woods. Now, you have to understand that giants are not they're not the most quick-witted of folk, but they are strong, and they will not hesitate to rip off your head from your body and grind your bones to dust. On top of that, they're giant. "You there, little man," roared the giant. "I see on your belt it says you have killed 7 men in one blow. That is a mighty feat indeed. I would like to challenge you to a contest." Now this confused the tailor. He looked at his belt that he embroidered and read 7 in one blow. And he conceded that yes, he probably should have embroidered onto it what he had killed with that one blow. But that was in the past, and the giant was now. And it's not very wise to say no to a giant. So he said, "Very well, I accept your challenge." And so the giant, what he did, he reached down and he picked up a boulder from the roadside and he squeezed the boulder and he squeezed the boulder, and water dribbled out the bottom. He squeezed it so hard that water dribbled out the bottom. Now this impressed the tailor. This I think would impress any of us, really? Squeezing a boulder so hard that water, what? It seems a nigh impossible task. But this was a giant doing it. And giants are strong. So the tailor, what he did, he removed his cheese from his bag that he had before. "Why, what is that?" asks the giant. "Oh, this is Yellowstone, the strongest stone in the forest." And this impressed the giant. This impressed the giant a lot. "Well, I'd like to see you squeeze anything out of that." And so the tailor, he took the Yellowstone, which is really just cheese, and he squeezed, and milk always came out of it. And this impressed the giant. It wouldn't normally impress you or I, but this was a giant. Giants are stupid. And so the giant said, "Very well, see if you can match this." And he reached down and he picked another boulder up from the wayside and he slung it. And it flew over the trees, over the hills, over the rooftops of the village, and eventually came to a rest in a ditch far away. Try and best that if you can. Once again, I apologize for the accents. Now the tailor saw this. "All right then, I reckon I can do that." And he reached down and he picked up a bird from the road. Because apparently you can do that in Storyland. Like there are just birds on the road that you can just reach down and pick up, and it's the story. Sorry, it's just very convenient. And he picked up the bird and he flung it. He let it. He flung it softly so that it wouldn't hurt it, but it would flap its wings. And so he flung it, and the bird flapped its wings and flew off into the sky. Now, as you recall, giants are, well, fortunately very stupid. So, the giant, having seen this, "Wow! You threw that rock so hard, it's not even coming back to the ground. You have truly bested me in this contest, little man. You and I will be besties forever." And the tailor said, because it's not wise to say no to a giant. Anyway, so the giant and the tailor are now the best of buds. And as best of buds do, the giant asked the tailor for some help. "Mighty man," he said, in the original accent of which I can't recall, but this is his voice now. "Mighty man," he said, "I would very much require your help. You see, I have this tree I have to carry all the way to the other side of the forest, but I don't think I can do it on my own. Would you please help me?" So the tailor said, how hard could it be? All right. And then the tailor said to the giant, so just grab the trunk. I guess you grab that end and I'll grab the branches all the way over there. So the giant lumbered over to the trunk and put his arms around it, ready to pick it up. Meanwhile, the tailor was running to the branches, because it's a very large tree, and the branches were a far way away. And so when the tailor got to the branches, he reached up and grabbed onto them. Now the giant was giant, and the tailor, he was quite small. So the giant, holding onto the trunk, he couldn't see the tailor at all on the other side of the tree, hanging onto the branches, but he heard in the distance, "Well, all right then, I'm ready." And the giant was like, "All right, here we go." And he reached down and he, and the giant picked up the tree with his giant strength. And on the other end of the tree, the tailor just grabbed onto the branches and was swaying to and through, as the giant did all the hard work. So they walked through the woods, the tailor hanging, and the giant eventually put the tree down next to his other trees. "It's going to be a good tree farm one day," he said to the tailor after they'd met up. "You've impressed me, mighty man. Let me take you to my home. It will be a mighty fine thing indeed." And so the tailor, it was a Wednesday night. There wasn't much on, nothing on the telly or anything. So he said, "Well, all right then. I've never seen a giant's house before. Let's go." And so they went to the giant's house, which is, it's also giant. And in this giant's house lived other giants who did not like the idea of this little man. This is all the giants. What is this little man doing? But the other giant, he stood up for them. He said, "This little man is a mighty man indeed, and he's stronger than even I." It's true. It's true. And so they welcomed into their giant home where the tailor, well, he was quite small. He was quite small, which is convenient because they had massive jam sandwiches. Massive! So he ate his fill and he went off to bed. Now, like the jam sandwiches, the giant beds are also quite giant. So, the giant showing the tailor his room. Little man, you may sleep on this bed. It is mine, it is yours, mi casa es tu casa. Golly, mister, that's amazing! And so the tailor went to sleep on the giant's bed, like this. But the problem was, the bed was too giant. Like, have you tried sleeping in a giant's bed? You may as well be sleeping on the floor. And the tailor just couldn't get to sleep. It was troubling for him. It was different. It was very different. So the tailor rolled out of the giant's bed onto the floor. And he saw a nice little patch of dust in the corner. Now, giant dust, like anything else giant, is also giant. But dust is quite small. So giant dust, you've got a big, small thing, and they kind of cancel. And the end result is a bed-size piece of fluff. So the tailor saw that and he was like, well, okay, I mean, yeah, I could sleep in that. So he slept. He slept quite soundly in his little fluff bed. Now, meanwhile, the other giants, they didn't like the tailor at all. They didn't like him. There was a little man with the strength of a giant. Imagine what he could do. So they had a plan. They got one of them, the oldest and the most strongest, and he snuck into the tailor's room. With his club or giant weapon, and he went to the giant bed and he smashed it, and he smashed it, and he smashed it, till the giant bed was no more but splinters everywhere, and no one could have survived that. And then the strong giant left the room, confident he did a good job. Now, you would imagine this commotion would wake the tailor, and it did. He woke up in his little corner, quite safe, quite sound, and he saw the giant smashing the bed. But there was no escape from the giant's house. All the windows were, the walls are giant. It's if you're small, you can't reach them. So he thought maybe he could clamber up the bed onto the windowsill and jump out to freedom. So he did that, but giants aren't really a trusting folk. So even though the strong giant told them they had smashed the bed in, they didn't believe him. So they all the giants, walked through the room, and they saw the little tailor man standing on the remains of his bed. This scared the giants a lot. He's a god! And all the giants ran away, leaving the tailor man somewhat confused about the whole experience. And so he left. So, the exploits of this little tailor man, it reached quite far. I mean, this was a little man who had killed 7 men in one blow and then scared off a whole house of giants. And so what the little tailor man did, he went to the king and he asked to join the royal service. Military folk, you know, with the swords and the shields and all the fighting. And what with his reputation, the king was like, well, all right then, come on in, because that's the voice of the king, which will most probably change throughout the whole story. Well, all right then, come on in, said the king. And so the little tailor man, now a little soldier man, joined the king's army. Now, it's all very well and good, but, well, the other soldiers in the royal service didn't like the tailor man. I mean, he was a top bloke and all that, but he had killed 7 men with one blow. He scared off a whole house of giants. What would happen if this man lost his temper? Why, he would surely wipe all of us out as well. And they didn't like that one bit. So they went up to the king with an ultimatum. They said, King, well, you know, king, there's a lot of them. So they said, they elected a representative to talk to the king. And he said, my liege, my king, my sir, king, I don't like this little man with his belt that says 7 in one blow. I do not like it one bit. I am scared of him, and either he leaves, I tell you, he leaves, either he leaves, he will leave, or I will leave. And I will leave. You know, there's a lot, and I will leave. And we all will leave. In fact, all of us will leave, leaving you with nothing. With nothing. And the king said, in his accent, which I've forgotten, very well, I understand. Fetch me the little man, and I will talk to him. Now, you have to understand that the king also didn't want to incur the wrath of the little tailor man, because, well, he might lose his cool and kill the king. He didn't want that to happen. So the king devised a cunning plan. So the king sat atop his throne as the tailor man entered. Tell me, little man, said the king. Tell me, what do people say about you? And the tailor man was confused. He said, well, what do people say about me? Well, they say I stay out too late. Ah, yes. Killing giants, no doubt. And they say that I've got nothing on my brain. Ah, yes, nothing but violence, I assume. Well, that's what people say. Well, I mean, that's what people say. Oh, all right, no need to be so swift about it, said the king. Now, little man, I have a task for you, because you are so mighty indeed, and your strength shall be told throughout the ages to come. I have a task for you. You see, there are 2 giants that I need you to kill, which should be an easy feat indeed for a man of your stature. But I'm busy until Sunday. None of that, you see, little man. As a reward, I will give you my daughter's hand in marriage, as well as half the kingdom. Okay, yeah, okay, why not? YOLO. And so, the little tailor man set out to fight some giants. And so, the tailor man went off in search of these giants. It's a horse, he's running. Eventually, he spotted two of them dozing in the sun in the distance, like this. And the other one over here, like this. They're weird sleepers. Now the tailor man looked at the two of them and thought, well, golly, I'm going to die, aren't I? But no! Because the tailor man was a thinker. So the tailor man, he stepped down and he picked up a rock. A rock! Not a bird. A rock. That's fine. Like, there's rocks on the ground. Birds, then he just picked up a bird. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, so he picked up a rock and he slung it. And it hit the giant sleeping. It didn't do any damage, but it awakened him from his slumber. And the giant looked around, but the tailor man had led his horse down into a depression and was hiding there, so the giant couldn't see. And so the giant thought the other giant had hit him. "Greg," said the giant, "why'd you hit me?" The giant, presumably called Greg, "Greg and I was sleeping, you hit me in the house. Greg!" And then the giant, whose name we don't know yet, smashed Greg on the head, which awoke him. Charlie! What? Charlie, why'd you hit me, Charlie? What do you mean, why'd you hit me? What? You hit me first. I was asleep, Charlie. I was asleep. And Charlie, well, he kind of believed him. He did look like he was sleeping, but... You just hit me again! Charlie, why would I... Why would you hit me? And so Greg and Charlie succumbed to infighting. Giants are not very smart. I think that's... If the message of this story is anything, giants are strong, not that smart. And so the two giants fell to infighting. And in their fighting, they died. And the tailor man was victorious. And he rode back to the kingdom on his little pony or horse, or whatever I said he had, a giant eagle. He rode on the back of a giant eagle back to the kingdom, and he told the king about his deeds. Ha! Oh, very, very good job there, tailor man. Oh, yeah, it was, 7 in 1 blow, right? Hey. Now, this put me in an awkward spot. I said I would give you my daughter's hand in marriage, and, it's... Well, she doesn't want... She doesn't, she says something about, equal rights and, patriarchy, I don't know. She's been reading books again. So, tell you what, go out there and capture me a unicorn, and I'll have a chat with her, and it'll be all dandy. And the tailor man... Well, okay, why not then? Unicorns are pretty cool. So he set off again, on his little horsey, to find a unicorn. And hey, look at that! conveniently, one in the distance. Now, I should point out that unicorns nowadays, you're like, oh, unicorns, they're so nice, they're so pretty, oh, look at them, it's making me a dress for me. No. That's now unicorns. Unicorns back then, back before Facebook, back before Instagram, back before MySpace. Unicorns back then, evil creatures. Horses, bloodshot eyes, blood dripping from their teeth, a giant horn. You know what that horn is used for? Impaling people. Unicorns were the first animals on Earth to invent the kebab because they ran into like a badger and then like a capsicum and then like a sausage and then they would roast that on the fire of the burning corpses they had killed and then somehow ate it. They're very evil creatures. Hey look, there's a unicorn, this will be fun, said the tailor, who I think at this moment is slightly suicidal, but that's just me. And then the unicorn was, I don't know, feasting on the remains of the young. And the tailor, he picked up a rock, not a bird, a rock, and he smacks the unicorn on the head. Now the unicorn being smacked on it's not fun. If anything, it would make you angry, which it did. The unicorn was very angry, and he charged at the tailor man, attempting to gouge him. But the tailor man just stood there. He just stood there. Oh, that's convenient. The unicorn's coming towards me. I don't have to walk all that way. And the unicorn ran towards him and leapt through the air with its horn aimed straight for the tailor man's heart. But the tailor man stepped to the side and the unicorn impaled itself on a tree. Unicorns also aren't very smart. So the unicorn was impaled on the tree. And so, congrats! Tailor Man did it! So he rode his horseback, or his eagle, or his 747, back to the king, and he told the king about this. Oh, wow, okay. I didn't expect you to actually capture a unicorn, but I'm still getting married to your daughter, right? That was part of the... Yeah, whatever. And so the tailor man was married. He got married to the princess. And so he became, I guess, the prince. The tailor man, once a tailor in the woods, embroidering 7 in 1 blow on his little belt, had become the prince. And so there was the ceremony, there was balloons, there was some doves, typical, there was a trumpet, maybe, and a cake, a large cake, chocolate and vanilla. Chocolate, vanilla cake, it was delicious, and there was dancing, and it was a great merry time. And so afterwards, the prince and the princess went to their private chamber, but the prince was like, I'm a bit tired at the moment, if I'm going to be honest. And he zonk off to bed, asleep, and annoyed the princess quite a lot, who just, I guess, sat next to him and shot daggers into his sleeping skull. But the prince, the little tailor man, he was a sleep talker. He talked in his sleep, and as he talked, well, I'm just a tailor man. I didn't do any of those things. I just pretended to. I never killed a 7-man with one blow, etc., etc. And he listed all of the things that he didn't do. He was just a tailor man. The princess has married a tailor man. A tailor man. And you can imagine how annoyed she was at that. Because this was before, Tumblr was a thing. So everyone was still at each other's throats and there was still classism and all that things. So then the princess ran to her father, the king, and she told him that her newly wedded husband was just a tailor. He was just a tailor. And so the king would have none of that. Don't worry, princess, I'll deal with it in the morning. It's 3 at the moment. I'll do it tomorrow night. How about that? Okay, father. That's the princess. Wait. Okay, father. No, sorry. Okay, father. Okay, father. Well, that sounds like a great idea. And so she went back and slept. Probably had some ice cream or something. And so the next night, a squire, rather conveniently, had overheard the king's plot to take care of the prince, the tailor man, that night. And so the squire went up to the tailor man and he told him of the king's plans because he was loyal to the tailor man for reasons not disclosed in this synopsis that I've printed out of the story. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Squire Man, said the little tailor man, now Prince. Thank you very much indeed. Your loyalty will be very much rewarded with baked beans, no doubt, and I'll fix up that shoe for you. It's looking a bit old. Oh, thank you, mister, said the squire, because that's what squires sound like, apparently. And so that night, the little tailor man pretended to sleep. He didn't actually sleep. He pretended to sleep. He said in his sleeping voice. And then he heard, at the door, footsteps. And then he heard a rattle as they tried to open the door. And so the little tailor man, in his sleep, I am the destroyer of giants, he said, sleep talking. I have destroyed many a giant. And the rattling stopped. And he could hear the other people listening at the door. I have killed 3 dragons. 4 if you count a half dragon. And the other people listened in awe. And if I am slain in a bed, I shall come back as a ghost and kill everyone, he said. You'll notice that his sleeping voice is a lot different than his waking voice for reasons. And so the king and his stewards and the army people, hearing this, took it for fact. Because, well, no one had ever lied in their sleep before. Who does that? Crazy people. And so the king and the steward and everyone just they didn't want to die. So they just laid off him. They just went away, didn't kill him. It was great fun. And apparently, that ended all further assassination attempts on the tailor man, now Prince, and he lived the rest of his days in a marriage that, to be honest, the princess didn't like him, but he had half the kingdom, and he never had a jam sandwich with only 1 slice of bread ever again. And that's the story of the valiant little tailor man. Goodbye.